I paid for joint birthday, but sister made a pink for her daughter and put my pirate son at a corner table with allergic cake. My family laughed. Cade should eat at home. So I grabbed my son, walked out and cancelled their funds. Well, let's go. My name is Solène and I've been divorced for about 3 years now. It's just me and my son Cade, who's 8 years old. We have a decent life together. I work full-time as an office manager, and Cade goes to school. We do homework together in the evenings, watch movies on weekends, and somehow manage to make it work. The divorce wasn't easy, but we got through it. My ex-husband and I share custody, and he's actually a good dad to Cade. We just couldn't make our marriage work. I have an older sister named Maribel. She's married with one daughter who's about to turn 10. Maribel and her husband have always had money troubles. They live paycheck to paycheck, always complaining about bills and expenses. My parents are still together, living in the same house where Maribel and I grew up. They're retired now, both in their mid-60s. Here's the thing about my family that I'm only now starting to see clearly. For years, I've been the one everyone turns to when they need money. My parents get $850 from me every month. I also pay $700 monthly for Maribel's car loan. On top of that, I pay for subscriptions like Netflix and other services for my parents. It's been going on for so long that I don't even remember when it started. Just became normal. Last week, I went to dinner at my parents' house. Maribel was there too with her husband and daughter. We all sat around the dining table eating pot roast that Mom had made. Cade was playing with his cousin in the living room. The kids seemed happy, which always made these family dinners bearable for me. I brought up Cade's birthday during dessert. He was turning 9 in a month, and I had already started planning his party. I told everyone I was thinking about inviting 3 of his best friends from school. We'd probably go to a local pizza place or maybe rent a bounce house for the backyard. Nothing fancy, just something fun for the kids. Maribel jumped in immediately. She said her daughter's birthday was also in a month. Then she got this excited look on her face and suggested we throw a joint birthday party for both kids on the same day. She went on about how great it would be, how the kids could celebrate together. Then she dropped the real reason. Maribel said she had wanted to throw a big party for her daughter this year, but she and her husband were having financial problems. If we combined the birthdays, we could split all the costs in half. That way we'd both save money. She made it sound like she was doing me some huge favor. Before I could even respond, Mom chimed in. She thought it was a great idea. She started planning right there at the table. Mom suggested a sea-themed party. She said Cade and his friends could dress up as pirates, and Maribel's daughter had always wanted to be a mermaid. Mom was getting really excited about the whole concept. I told them I needed to think about it. I wanted to discuss it with Cade first, see what he thought, but Mom cut me off. She said there was nothing to think about, that this was how it should be done. She used that tone she always uses when she's made up her mind about something. Maribel then announced that about 20 kids would be coming to her daughter's party. She said that was perfectly normal for a children's birthday party. I felt my stomach drop. 20 kids. Had planned on 3. Just 3 of Cade's closest friends. I mentioned this to Maribel. She waved it off. Maribel said there was no need to count the children. The most important thing was to throw a fun party for all the kids. She made it sound like I was being difficult by even bringing up the numbers. Then Dad joined the conversation. He said I shouldn't be stingy. He reminded me that I had money, that I could easily pay half of all the expenses. The way he said it made me feel guilty, like I was being cheap with my own son's birthday. I felt trapped. Everyone was staring at me, waiting for my answer. Cade was in the other room, completely unaware that his birthday party was being planned without his input. I thought about how much he had been looking forward to his special day. Finally I agreed, but I made it clear that equal conditions should be created for both children. I insisted that the whole party should be organized in a unified style. If it was going to be a joint party, then both kids needed to be treated equally. That seemed fair to me. Maribel immediately agreed. She said I had nothing to worry about. She'd order and organize everything herself. She promised it would be perfect for both kids. Then she mentioned she didn't have the money right now. She asked me to give her money to put down a deposit for the party venue and cake. I should have seen the red flags right there. I should have asked more questions, but I didn't. I just pulled out my checkbook and wrote her a check for $1,200. She said that would cover the deposit and she'd let me know about the rest later. The next few weeks went by fast. Maribel sent me a few texts saying everything was going great with the party planning. She said she had found the perfect venue. She told me not to worry about anything, that she had it all under control. I asked her a couple of times about the sea theme and she always said yes. Everything was on track. I took Cade shopping for a pirate costume. He was so excited. We found a great costume with a vest, bandana, and even a plastic sword. He practiced his pirate voice for days. He invited his 3 friends, and their parents confirmed they'd all come. The boys planned to dress as pirates together. The day of the party finally arrived. I woke up early that morning feeling good about everything. Cade was already up running around the house in his pirate costume. He looked adorable. The vest fit him perfectly, and he had his bandana tied around his head. He kept waving his plastic sword around, pretending to fight invisible enemies. His 3 friends arrived at our house around noon. All 3 boys were dressed as pirates, too. They looked like a proper crew. The boys were laughing and joking around, already having a great time before we even left for the venue. I loaded them all into my car and drove to the address Maribel had given me. When we pulled up to the venue, I noticed the parking lot was already pretty full. I figured Maribel's guests had arrived early. We walked toward the entrance, the boys running ahead of me, excited to get inside. Cade was telling his friends about how there would be a pirate ship and treasure chests. That's what I had told him based on what Mom had said about the sea theme. We opened the doors and stepped inside. I stopped dead in my tracks. In the center of the hall stood a huge Barbie doll at least 6 foot tall. The entire hall was decorated in pink and gold. Pink balloons everywhere. Gold streamers hanging from the ceiling. Pink tablecloths on all the tables. There wasn't a single pirate ship or treasure chest anywhere. All the children inside were dressed in Barbie and Ken-style outfits. Pink dresses, sparkly accessories. The boys wore preppy outfits that looked like Ken dolls. Even the photo zone was set up like a tea party for dolls with a pink table and tiny chairs. There was absolutely nothing related to the sea or pirates. I felt my face get hot. Cade and his friends stood next to me, looking confused. Cade tugged on my sleeve and asked me if we were at the right party. Before I could answer, I heard my parents laughing. They were standing near the entrance with Maribel and her family. Dad walked over and said Cade had clearly come to the wrong party. He said Cade needed to go to a ship instead. He was laughing like it was the funniest joke he'd ever made. Mom was laughing too. Maribel just stood there with this weird smile on her face. I looked down at Cade. His eyes were getting watery. His bottom lip was trembling. He was about to cry. I knelt down next to him and put my hand on his shoulder. I told him everything was fine, that we were going to have a great time. I forced myself to smile even though I wanted to scream. I took Cade and his friends by the hand and led them toward the large party table. All of Maribel's daughter's friends were already seated there. The table was decorated with pink plates and gold napkins. I started to pull out chairs for the boys, thinking we'd just squeeze them in somewhere. Maribel came running over. She grabbed my arm and told me that table was only for her daughter's friends. She said a separate table had been prepared for Cade. She pointed toward the corner of the room. Her voice was low but firm. Mom appeared next to Maribel. She said Cade and his friends had worn the wrong costumes. She said they would ruin all the photos looking like that. She actually said it would be better for them to sit at a separate table. She said it like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. I felt something snap inside me. I turned to Maribel and asked why the party was organized in this style. I reminded her that we had agreed in advance that the birthday would be dedicated to a sea theme. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Maribel brushed me off with a wave of her hand. She said her daughter had changed her mind and chosen the Barbie style. She said she didn't argue with her daughter about these things. She said it like I was being unreasonable for even bringing it up. I looked over at the corner table Maribel had pointed to. It was small, barely big enough for 4 people. It had a plain white tablecloth and regular plates. No decorations, no pink or gold, nothing special at all. It looked like an afterthought, like someone had just thrown it together at the last minute. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab Cade and leave right then. But all these kids were here, and I didn't want to ruin the party for them. I took a deep breath and walked the boys over to the small table. I told them they'd be more comfortable there anyway, that they'd have their own private pirate corner. The boys sat down, but they looked disappointed. Cade especially. He kept looking over at the big table where all the other kids were sitting, where his cousin was sitting in a fancy pink dress surrounded by her friends, where there was laughter and excitement. I noticed something else. On the big table, there were cupcakes and cookies decorated with initials. My niece's initials. They were written in pink icing on every single treat. I looked at the small table where Cade sat. Plain cupcakes, plain cookies, no names, no decorations, nothing that said it was his birthday too. I didn't say anything. I just stood there trying to keep my face neutral, trying not to show Cade how angry I was. My hands were shaking, so I clasped them together behind my back. Then I saw them wheeling something out from the kitchen. A huge 3-tier cake, pink and white layers, Barbie dolls decorating each tier. And on the top, written in gold letters, was my niece's name, just her name. Below it were 10 candles. 10, not 9. Nothing for Cade. I marched over to Maribel. I asked her to explain why the cake was only for her daughter. I asked why it had only one name on it. I asked why Cade's name wasn't written anywhere. I tried to keep my voice down, but it was getting harder. Maribel sighed like I was bothering her. She told me not to dramatize. She said all the kids were thrilled with the cake. She said Cade would forget tomorrow that his name didn't fit on the cake. She actually said those words to me. Then I looked closer at the cake. My blood went cold. The cake was covered in chopped nuts. Pecans. I could see them clearly sprinkled all over the frosting. Maribel knew Cade was allergic to nuts. She had known this for years. I asked Maribel what Cade would eat. My voice was shaking now. Maribel looked at me calmly and said Cade could have eaten at home. She said it so casually like it was no big deal. My parents were standing right there when Maribel said that. They heard everything and they burst out laughing. Actually laughing. Dad added that it would be right for Cade to eat at home. Then he said he had never seen a pirate who ate cake. He thought he was being clever and funny. I stood there for a moment just staring at them. My own parents, my own sister. They had humiliated my son. They had excluded him from his own birthday party. A party I had paid for. A party I had been promised would be equal for both kids. I didn't say a word to any of them. I just turned around and walked straight to the corner table where Cade was sitting with his friends. I took his hand gently and told him we needed to leave. He looked up at me with those big eyes, confused and sad. I told Cade and his friends that we were all going to another place together. I said we would have much more fun there. I kept my voice cheerful and upbeat even though inside I was furious. The boys stood up immediately ready to follow me. We started walking toward the exit. Maribel came running after us. She was yelling loud enough for everyone in the venue to hear. She said that before leaving, I had to pay the remaining amount. She actually had the nerve to demand money from me right then and there. I stopped and turned around. I told her I wouldn't be paying for anything. I said nothing had been organized here for my child. I said she could pay for everything herself. Then I took the boys and walked out the door. We drove straight to the amusement park across town. It was about a 20-minute drive. The boys were quiet in the car at first, probably confused about what had just happened, but I started talking to them about all the rides we'd go on and they perked up. When we got to the park, I bought them all entrance wristbands for unlimited rides. We got juices and cotton candy. The boys ran from ride to ride, laughing and having the time of their lives. Cade's face was glowing with happiness. This was what his birthday should have been. I even managed to find a small bakery inside the park that did custom cakes. I ordered a simple birthday cake for Cade right there. The baker let Cade come behind the counter. She gave him a pastry bag filled with cream and he squeezed it out himself to write his own name on the cake. He was so proud of that cake. Way more proud than he would have been of that ridiculous pink Barbie cake. The boys loved everything. They went on the roller coaster 3 times. They tried the spinning teacups. They played games and won small prizes. They ate hot dogs and popcorn. Cade told me it was the best birthday ever. His friends agreed. While we were at the park, my phone kept buzzing. Call after call. Text after text. I glanced at the screen a few times. Maribel, Mom, Dad, Maribel again, Mom again. They were relentless. I ignored every single one. Finally, I just put my phone on silent mode and shoved it in my purse. We stayed at the park until evening. The boys were exhausted but happy. I drove Cade's friends back to their homes. Each parent thanked me and said their son had a wonderful time. One mom even said it sounded way better than a formal party venue. When I got home that evening, I checked my phone. Dozens of missed calls. Dozens of texts. I didn't read any of them. Then my phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was a man's voice. He introduced himself as the party organizer from the venue. He said Maribel had told him that I would be paying the bill for the party. He said the total came to $4,500 minus the $1,200 deposit I had already paid. I told him I definitely wouldn't be paying that. I said Maribel and I had a contract, which meant the bill should be issued in her name, not mine. He started to argue, but I just hung up on him. I blocked that number too. Later that evening, my ex-husband came over with a gift for Cade. He always made sure to see Cade on his actual birthday, even though it wasn't his custody day. Cade ran to show him all the prizes he had won at the amusement park. He told his dad about writing his own name on the cake. After Cade went to bed, I told my ex-husband everything that had happened. I told him about the pink Barbie party, the separate table, the cake with nuts, all of it. He just sat there shaking his head. He looked angry but not surprised. He said he would organize a special party for Cade, a real party. He said he'd take Cade to Disneyland for a couple of days. Cade had always wanted to go to Disneyland. My ex-husband made the arrangements right there, booking tickets on his phone. The next day, he picked up Cade and they left for their Disneyland trip. Cade was over the moon. He hugged me goodbye and said this was turning out to be the best birthday week ever. Watching him leave so happy made everything worth it. With Cade gone and the house quiet, I had time to think. I thought about what my ex-husband had said years ago back when we were still married. One of the main reasons for our divorce was that he didn't like how I always sacrificed our time and money for my parents and sister. He said I put them before my own family. I remembered all the times I had helped Maribel with money. There were so many times I couldn't even count them all. I remembered giving her money that my husband and I had been saving for a vacation. We had saved for months. Then Maribel needed help with rent and I gave her the money. Our vacation never happened. And when we did manage to plan vacations, Maribel always invited herself along. She'd say it would be fun for the cousins to spend time together. And I would end up paying for her trip too. Hotel rooms, meals, tickets to attractions, everything. I thought about the $850 I sent my parents every month, the $700 for Maribel's car loan, the subscriptions, the random emergency money whenever someone called asking for help. Years and years of this. I opened my banking app on my phone. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I started making changes. I canceled the automatic payment to my parents. $850 a month gone. I canceled the automatic payment for Maribel's car loan. $700 a month gone. Then I went through and canceled all the subscriptions I had been paying for my parents, Netflix, Hulu, some grocery delivery service, all of it canceled. Felt good. Felt like I was finally taking control of my own life. I sat there on my couch staring at my phone screen, watching all those automatic payments disappear. Years of financial burden gone in minutes. The next day my phone exploded. Calls from mom, calls from dad, calls from Maribel, text messages flooding in. I let them all go to voicemail at first, but they kept calling over and over, so I finally answered. Mom called me petty and vindictive. She demanded that I return everything back to the way it was. She said I was being cruel and selfish. Dad got on the phone and yelled at me to reconnect Netflix for him. He said he was in the middle of watching a series. I told them they had humiliated and hurt my son. I said I would never help them again after what they did to Cade. I told Mom to tell Maribel that there would be no more payments for her car loan. Then I hung up and blocked both their numbers. Maribel tried texting me from different numbers, but I blocked those too. Then she wrote a long Facebook post. She said I had almost ruined her daughter's birthday because I was jealous of how well and beautifully she had arranged everything. She painted herself as the victim and me as the jealous, petty sister. I didn't respond. I didn't even comment. I just let her post sit there. Some of her friends commented supporting her, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to defend myself on social media. A few days later, relatives started reaching out. Aunts and uncles I hadn't seen in years. Cousins I barely knew. They all had the same message. I shouldn't turn my back on my sister. Family was important. I was being too harsh. One cousin sent me a long message saying I shouldn't take revenge on my sister and niece out of envy. The word envy kept coming up, like I was envious of Maribel's financial problems and terrible party planning skills. I blocked every single person who sent me those messages. A week later, Dad sent me an email. He said I urgently needed to come to a family meeting. He said they would all discuss my behavior together. He said if I didn't come, I would no longer be a member of their family. He actually wrote that like being part of this family was some kind of privilege. I wrote back a brief reply. Just 2 words. I won't come. That was it. I hit send and closed my laptop. The very next day, Mom and Dad showed up at my house. I saw them through the window and didn't open the door. I talked to them through the closed door. I wasn't letting them inside. Dad said I had always helped them before, so I was obligated to continue doing so. Obligated. Like it was a debt I owed them just for being born. Mom said if I didn't change my attitude toward the family, they would no longer invite me to family holidays. I told them I didn't need that anymore. I said every time I came to family holidays, I was the one who paid for everything. I reminded them that they always gave my niece nice expensive gifts while Cade got clearance sale items or used toys. They didn't have an answer for that. Then Maribel showed up. She was crying, real tears running down her face. She said the bank had threatened to take away her car if she didn't pay the loan debt. She begged me to help her one more time. I told her she should talk to her husband about that, not me. I said it was her husband's job to provide for his own family, not mine. Maribel said her husband was having problems at work. She said she needed my help again. Just this once. I told Maribel that after the disrespect she showed my son, I would never help her again. Not once. Not ever. Then I closed the door and locked it. I watched through the window as they all stood there on my porch for a few minutes before finally leaving. Cade came home from Disneyland with his dad a few days later. He had the best time. He showed me pictures and told me stories about every ride they went on. He met Mickey Mouse and got an autograph. He was so happy. Recently, my ex-husband invited me to dinner. Just the 2 of us without Cade. We went to a nice restaurant downtown. We talked for hours. He said I had fun.